Hey, everybody, this is Kody Bateman with the Promptings Process Show. I got to tell you, man, you got to tune in today. We got an incredible guest on this show, Richard Bliss Brooke. I'm going to read you a little bit about this guy. And I'll tell you, the conversation I had with him was unbelievable. Here's a guy who's a 45-year veteran of the network marketing and transformational coaching business. He built his own personal team to 30,000 active distributors. He's been an owner of his own network marketing company for 35 years. Here's what's cool about this guy. He's coached billionaires, Hall of Fame athletes, authors, speakers, and dozens of seven-figure entrepreneurs. He has a deep distinction in sales and recruiting, having worked with tens of thousands of salespeople and prospects. He shared the speaking stage with Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Sir Richard Branson, Les Brown, Pitbull. List goes on and on. His gift of all gifts, and you're going to see this in the show today. He talks here about the gift of all gifts that he has, his ability to shift one's state of being through his questions and therapeutic listening. He's got this word here called ontological coaching process. I don't even know what that means, but I'll tell you what, you just got to watch this guy. He's been a dear friend of mine for years, and he's had influence on hundreds of thousands of people all around the world in helping them to live their dreams, create supplemental income, create residual income for themselves, be able to be part of big personal development plans, and to help and coach people to transform themselves into what their potential is. He's just one of the best, super down to earth, super cool, nice guy. You're going to see that with him. You're going to see it. You know, I had no idea how this interview was going to go, because he and I are dear friends, and we can get kind of crazy talking about personal stories and stuff, which we did. But it's just really interesting. You know, I asked him a question up front that really took us on a journey together. You got to check this out. I mean, there is some golden nuggets here that are going to be truly magical for you. So I hope you enjoy the show. Take care. Hello, everybody. This is Kody Bateman. Welcome to the Promptings Process Show. Super excited to have a dear friend of mine and incredible guest on our show today. You just heard his bio. This guy's, it's unbelievable, the stuff that he's done. Richard Bliss Brooke. Brother, how you doing?
I'm excellent, Kody Bateman. I'm all good and honored to be here.
Yeah, so you know, we have this show. People listen to the podcast. Some of them view it on YouTube. Those who will end up seeing this on YouTube or seeing that cool white Hawaiian looking shirt. So we're talking to you from Hawaii, right? You're home.
I am.
We got to start there. You know, tell us about, you know, you live in Hawaii. I mean, and you've lived there for what? How long you been there now?
I've been here 7 years, full time. Yeah.
Cool. I kind of live vicariously through you with your social media stuff. I always see you out in the boat. You're out in the boat, like, so you're riding the boat out in the ocean, I guess, or is there an inlet or what?
It's an ocean. Yeah. But if you go out of the harbor, the next stop is Fiji or California
Oh my goodness.
or Japan or something like that. Yeah, we go fishing a lot, and of course we take people out for like sunset cruises and watch the whales and dolphins and snorkeling and stuff. But
Lifestyle. Lifestyle. That's living life. That's really cool. In fact, last week on our show, we had a mutual friend of ours, Jordan Adler, was on with us, and I've seen Jordan on your boat with you several times, so I know he's been out there. I'm just waiting for the invite, you know, just waiting.
you have a standing invite, brother. Anytime you want to come and bring the family and chill out, this is the place to do it.
Well, listen, our guests are real excited to hear from you. You know, I used to run a show called the Relationship Marketing Podcast with Kody B. That's me. And we've kind of rebooted now as the Promptings Process. And there's a lot of reasons for that. what made the relationship marketing show so unique was the philosophy that we have about relationship marketing, which is acting on promptings. So we wanted to reboot the show and go specifically and talk about promptings, the promptings process, how it creates positive energy in your life, how it guides you to people that you should meet and be with, and how it leads you to your purpose. And so that's what the promptings process is all about. I always like to start every show by asking a question. I'm probably going to end up asking the same question to every guest I have. And just to put you on the spot a little bit, let's start by asking you to think of a prompting that you acted on sometime in your life, anytime in your life, a prompting that you acted on that changed the course of your life. I think that's a great way to start.
Mm. Well, I'll tell you a big one, and then I'll just tell you a little one from last week that I just thought of when you were talking about relationships and prompting. So probably the biggest one, Kody, was, you have coined the word promptings, and you own that whole distinction and that whole story, and your story around promptings is just epic. I have always tended to use the word intuition, and I don't know if it's exactly the same thing, but probably pretty close. But what I think the biggest change in my life that my intuition or promptings led me to was to lean into being a student of transformational development or personal development. And if you would have looked at my life course prior to being introduced to personal development, you would have said, this is a least likely guy to be interested in. Back then, in the late 70s, it was actually called like PMA, right? Positive mental attitude stuff, which was really pretty low level compared to the work that you and I do. But, I had an intuition that there was something about this conversation, these insights, these thoughts, these questions that people were asking me that was going to be good for me. And, I didn't do well in school at all. I had this insight in high school that, I remember algebra. I said, when am I ever going to use algebra in my entire life? Now I'm, 30 years, 40 years later, I became a private pilot, and, oh, hey, guess what? You need a little algebra. But now they got these fancy computers, you don't really need to know it that well. So I didn't do well in school. I really had this perspective that traditional education was not that useful. And when I was introduced to the idea of, hey, you can actually change your thoughts, you can change your story, you can manifest, you can motivate yourself to move in a particular direction, and you don't have to be a victim, right? You don't have to be a leaf in the wind. You can actually chart a course and direct outcomes. Maybe not perfectly, but you can certainly create trends. And it's all about how you condition your thoughts and your feelings. And man, I just really leaned into that, Kody. And I just had a feeling this was a place for me to study. This was a place where I could grow. I couldn't grow in education. It just wasn't a fit for me. And that changed the whole course of my life. I mean, it resulted in me being successful in business, successful with people, successful in my own body and my own relationships. And that was the biggest one.
So as all this started, you were being guided. I mean, you felt like you were being guided, like
yes,
following the thoughts and being guided, and it would take you to certain things. And this is what we talk about, is what promptings are. We talk a lot about the inner prompting and the outer prompting. Inner prompting is that inner voice that's guiding you, and everybody has it. Go ahead.
It's kind of like hearing a song that you love, right? It's like, oh, wow, I love the beat of that. I love the tune of that. I mean, some people that, attribute it to religion, they have a way of explaining it, which works for them. That wasn't my background. So I just like heard that voice. I just, the message, the outer prompting resonated with an inner prompting. The two matched up, and, it wasn't like really conscious where I had a breakthrough. I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to do big things here. Although I did have some of those declarations and breakthroughs, I just found myself being attracted, paying attention, leaning in, asking questions, learning more. And that had the biggest change in my life. I mean, it really set the whole course of my life.
Well, we heard about your background in the introduction of the show, 45-year veteran. I like how you say network marketing and transformational coaching profession. And you've kind of evolved over the years into that. You've been a transformational coach for many, many years, kind of started network marketing. But even before that, in fact, I got to tell everybody a little story here. Here's what impresses me about Richard Brooke. Like I've never met anybody like you from this standpoint. I remember the first time I met you, we were at some event, we were at a round table. I remember the first time we had a conversation. It's like you like reeled me in like 3 seconds because you spoke my language. I'm a blue collar hick from a small town, grew up digging ditches and doing stuff. And when you first talked to me, and I knew who you were, I knew that you had all these accomplishments, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is Richard Brooke. But you reeled me in because you're so, you're just a good old boy that comes from the little town, and I don't even know if you know how powerful that gift is that people feel that realness from you and it reels them in. And then over time, they learn that this is probably one of the most profound, wise coaches in business today that I'm talking to. But the regular person reels into you. And I think that's a real gift that you have, so you came from humble background. You've learned a lot over the years. You do so much now to help so many people. So obviously you kind of had to be guided. In fact, I love your story, the chicken farm story, and how, now, were you in high school when you worked there?
No, right out of high school. So I was raised on a large cattle ranch, half cattle, half row crops, like 3,000 acres. And it was the nearest town was this little town called Chowchilla, which is only famous, if you're old enough, you might remember the wacko guy that hijacked a school bus full of kids and buried them.
Oh, wow.
They all came out fine, but that was in Chowchilla, my hometown. I don't know, 30 years ago or some crazy thing. And when you grow up on a farm, a big farm like that, and you're 5 miles from town, which doesn't seem like very far at all today, but 60 years ago, it took you 20 minutes to get to town. And so you didn't go to town very often. And you certainly didn't have the kind of community that kids have today where, the parents are running the kids every night to some kind of activity. I mean, I maybe went to see a friend once a month for something. So I grew up isolated from a lot of kids. And I remember we sold the ranch when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old. And we moved to the big city, which was only like 20,000 people. And I noticed how connected all the kids were there. They were all friends. They grew up with each other. They saw each other after school every day. And I was like, wow, this is kind of weird. I don't fit in here. I don't know any of these. I was not socially developed. And I had a lot of self-esteem issues, Kody. I had a lot of stories that I was not enough. I was, kind of typical low self-esteem kind of stuff. And here's what I've found, like one of the greatest, to speak to your comment about you and I connecting that day. I have found that to the degree you and I are insecure, that we're not comfortable in our own skin, we still are dominated by a story that what if people like me? What if I fail? What if I'm not, what if I'm not enough? If that dominates our conversation, then we tend to overcompensate with an act, right? A pretense. And that's pretense and act alienates people at least an unconscious level, if not consciously. And so one of the biggest benefits I've got out of transformational development is to change my story about who I am and what my worth is, and also stay grounded in, hey, part of who I am is, I cheated to get out of high school. I never went to college. I did work at a chicken plant for 4 years right out of high school, and I would have just retired from the chicken plant a couple of years ago if for not some circumstance. And so authenticity is really that's like the holy grail. Like if you can get to the place where you own your story and you're good with your story and you're good with who you are, then you can just be you. And that also allows you to be more interested in other people's story than trying to manufacture and manage your own story.
Yeah.
Like once you've accepted and you're good with who you are, then it allows you to be curious about other people and actually be present to, hey, tell me your story, and really listen to them. And, I think that's the magic of relationship building, is being good enough with you that you can focus on others, because everybody else is not at that place yet. They're not totally comfortable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, we talk about, we have a loop that explains the promptings process. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to put that up on
graphic.
Yeah, I'm going to put that up on the screen for those who watch this on YouTube, and I'll just try to explain it to our listeners. It's just a simple infinity loop, and it talks about our philosophy of two types of promptings. The inner prompting represents who you are, and you just talked about that. The inner prompting is who you are. It's that inner voice that speaks to you, that keeps you true to that authenticity. And when your inner voice is speaking, you need to listen and nourish it. And we talk about that. The outer prompting is what you do with who you are. So that's the prompting to say thank you to somebody, or, share appreciation or whatever. You're taking a part of who you are and giving away to others, which, by the way, is another thing you're a master at. You're very, very good at recognizing people. In fact, recognition, let's talk about it for a second, because I think you're a master at recognition. You've been recognizing people for years and years. Talk to us a little bit about the dynamics. What is so significant about appreciation or recognition? Because what we teach is that when you appreciate others, that appreciation comes back full circle. You feel the same energies. Coming from the recognition expert, talk to us about that.
Well, it's one of those assets like, love and listening and so many other assets, that the more of it you give away, the more of it comes back. So it's not a diminishing asset if you give it away. You give it away, you get more back. So the more recognition I give out, the more recognition I get back. Now, if that's the motive for giving the recognition, then you got a little kink in your story you might want to work on, right? But, why is recognition so important? Because, we're human beings, but really we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And the human experience tends to beat us down. And, if you go back to the formative years, age 1 through 5, even prenatally, most parents are not skilled. They didn't graduate. They're not certified in parenting.
Right.
They're just trying to survive, right? And oh my gosh, what do we do with all these kids? And they don't realize that those first 5 years, even prenatally, the child is trying to figure out who the child is. They're creating their identity. And so when there's stress in the family, or loud noises in the family, or anger, or fighting, or all the crazy stuff that goes on in families, most kids grow up with insecurities.
Yeah.
And so, recognition is just a simple way to feed the spirit of another human being. Just recognizing that almost everybody you're going to run into still has a core story that says, did I do enough? Did I did it good enough? Do people like me? Am I impressing? They kind of have those stories of insecurity. And so it's a simple, easy thing to just give someone praise. The typical thing, I know you and I have talked about this before, Kody. I've seen you in action doing this. Let's say you go to a restaurant and you get really bad service, right? Well, the typical thing to do, and I've done this, I've done both things. The typical thing to do is, no tip, and put a note on the check, get a life, get a different job, what's your problem? That was the worst service I've ever had. But, a more gracious and generous thing to do is, instead of tipping 25%, tip 50% on really bad service. Why? Well, probably the source of the really bad service is not that the wait staff wants to deliver bad service or hates their job. Probably they got stuff going on in their life, right? I mean, imagine.
Probably 9 times out of 10 for sure.
Yeah, imagine how many single moms are, waiting tables or tending bar or something, just trying to get by. And imagine how many bad days they have. And, what if you gave them a 50% tip and a note of kindness? I mean, it costs nothing, right? Okay, it costs $10 extra for the tip, but you don't even have to give extra money, right? What if you just wrote a note of kindness? And you can change people's lives with something that costs us nothing. And the more of it we give, the more of it we get back. Same thing with gratitude.
Well, and I think that's part of it too, is for people to truly understand that when you make it a habit to send out kindness and appreciation, that it's a universal law. That energy does come back to you. It ignites who you are as a person. You keep talking about being true to who you are, listening to who you are, listening to your voice, getting comfortable in your own skin, because the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more likely you are to want to learn somebody else's story.
Totally.
And to appreciate somebody else, that kind of thing. So
yeah, what happens in most conversations is two people who are relatively uncomfortable with who they are and needy, they come together in a conversation, and it sounds like, this like two Pac-Men coming at each other, right? And it's like me, let me tell you my fishing story. Super Dave and I are talking, we're talking about, or you and I are talking about Harleys. Oh, my Harley this. Oh, no, my Harley this. My fish this. My snowmobile, right? We come together and we're like,
Yeah.
That's the way most people are, because they're listening when somebody's telling them stories. They're not actually soaking in the richness and appreciating somebody else's story. Their conversation in their head is, well, as soon as Kody takes a breath, I can't wait to tell him about my, right?
Well, yeah, and the whole time I'm telling my story, he's thinking about the story he's going to tell, so he's not hearing anything I'm saying anyway. Yeah.
No, I'm not paying attention to you. I'm formulating my rebuttal.
I think what's enlightening for our listeners to hear is, someone like you that's as accomplished as you are, 45-year veteran in the industry. You've coached billionaires, Hall of Fame athletes, authors, speakers. I've watched you in action. I've seen you on the stage, just done incredible things. And there's so many people that are listening that have seen you in that way. So to hear you with that level of accomplishment talk about, hey, you know what? I still wonder what my worth is. And I think it's important to talk about, because I know I do the same thing. I mean, every time I go into a new room with new people in it, I have those same insecurities I've had my whole life.
Yeah.
Now I've
We
learned how to
both
do some stuff, but it's there. It never really goes away, does it?
No, I mean, 45 years later, if I walk off stage and you come up to me and said, Brooke, you killed it. Nice job. I mean, I'm like, thank you, Kody.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm like, oh, I really messed up. That was a horrible presentation. And maybe I even think I did a good job, right? But we're smart enough to not always pay attention to our own thoughts. It's nice to have third party validation. And the work that you guys do through Promptings and send out cards, Kody, is, I mean, I've told you this many times, you have the most brilliant, the most perfect product in the world for healing our planet, because everything is congruent around touching other people, reaching out to other people. Just the simple thing of grabbing a photo off of social media, printing it into a card with a note, sending it to somebody. I mean, you can't always hug somebody or slap them on the back or shake their hand, but you can always send them a card.
Yeah.
And, one of the conversations that I've been in of late is there's a lot of work going on in the world right now about, how many people can you reach out to, and how many people can you stay connected to, and how many relationships can you develop and keep track of and follow up every day. And an insight that I had around all of that as I found myself sort of moving in that direction is I thought, wow, how many people do I actually stay in touch with, reach out to, and nurture on an ongoing basis? And it would be a really powerful exercise, I think, Kody, for everybody listening to make a list of how many people, family, friends, business associates, how many people do you actually stay in touch with on a regular basis? And let's call regular at least once a year. And I was shocked, Kody, as I gave that some thought, how small that list was. And then I was thinking, oh, well, I'm kind of leaning into this whole idea of, staying in touch with 500 people or 1,000 people. And I had the epiphany, Kody, that, wow, what if I just nurtured 100? Right? What if I made a list of the 100 most important people in my life, and I made a concerted effort to text them, to call them, to send them a card on a regular basis, at least once a year, right? Even if that's 10 a month, that, you're going to touch somebody, on a regular basis. And I thought, what a life-changing strategy that is for you.
Yeah.
Because when you and I are laying on our deathbed, and maybe we have some notice to contemplate our life, we're not thinking about how much money we made.
No.
We're not thinking about all the business accomplishments or sports accomplishments or adventures. We're thinking about extraordinary times, perhaps good and bad, that we had with other people.
Yep.
We're quantifying our life, not on how many years we lived, which is the standard paradigm, not on how much money we made. But when it's all over, we're quantifying our life on how many memories do we have.
Wow.
And memories are not alone, right? We're not thinking about, I remember the time I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro by myself. No. You're thinking about the times that you did extraordinary things, fun things, emotional things, success, maybe even failure, challenging things with other people. And, my mentor, 43 years ago, told me the fountain of youth is memories in relationships. It's not how many years you live.
Yeah.
You can live to be 500 or 1,000 years just by cramming more relationships and memories into your life. How do you do that? You wait for other people to reach out and create those with you? No. Be a catalyst.
Yeah.
And, you know, the prompting part is pay attention to who do you resonate with? Who do you think might need you? Who do you need? And reach out.
Yeah. You know, as I hear you say that, I think, you know, we have a phrase we use all the time. It's not what you say or do, it's how you make people feel.
Totally.
When you were saying that just now, that's what I was thinking about. When we're on our deathbed and thinking about back on our life, it's not what we say or do, it's how those memories make us feel.
Totally.
So that's, you know, that's the key to it. So, and again, you know, memories with your family, your loved ones, people that you care about, friends, people. Yeah. I mean, and I love how you kind of tied that together, the importance of staying connected with as many people as you can year after year after year. It sounded like you were teaching one of our prompting seminars. I mean, we could just have you get on the stage and do it for us. So,
Well, I've been to a couple of them. I took a bunch of notes.
I remember we had a big convention several years ago, and you came and spoke, and it was phenomenal. I mean, you got up there first, you said, "Yeah, you guys don't even realize how great you have. You got the best product in the whole world. What's the matter with you?" I mean, you know, you did.
Well, you do. I mean, everybody else in marketing and network marketing is, you know, having to sell the prospect on why they need, you know, this product. But if you're in send out cards, I mean, all you have to ask is, hey, how's it feel when somebody sends you a card? And of course, the prospect says, well, you know, good, like a handwritten note. How do you feel when you get a handwritten? Well, wow, I feel great. Well, maybe more importantly, it might be a long time since you've done it, but how does it feel when you send one or give one? Oh man, it feels fantastic. Well, how'd you like to feel that way every day? Like I can show you how to feel that way every day, and then, you know, the practical benefits of it are, how many close friends do you have now? And, you know, most people are going to say between 1 and 5.
Yeah,
And,
for
well,
sure.
what if you had 50? And how could you get 50 really close friends? Well, maybe instead of everybody waiting for everybody else to be the one to reach out, what if we're the one that reaches out?
Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Now, you're traveling all over. You've helped people in a lot of different ways, different areas. We're all just trying to make a little bit of a difference in the world. I think that's what we're all trying to do. And we live in a kind of a crazy world right now. We live in a world where, I don't know how to properly say it, people are kind of crazy. Like it's just kind of crazy. And one of the challenges, or one of the things that we're strong advocates of, is bringing the human race back together again. We think that we have the promptings process as a way to bring people together. If you reach out in kindness, kindness comes back in turn, and it's a way to bring. Listen, we're a divided world right now, and we're not going to talk politics or nothing. But the bottom line is, we're a divided world, and how do we become a world undivided? How do we bring people back together, bring human race back together again? I want you to kind of, let's close out the show talking about the importance of that and things we could do.
I think it's one of the greatest public service initiatives that any of us or any company could embark on, because the way we're going as a country, we're in momentum, right? An object in momentum tends to stay in momentum, and we're in momentum to separate and continue to separate. And then, you know, what's the result of that if you look forward 5 or 10 years? Well, it's not good. I mean, it's really bad. And, you know, you're not going to get regulations passed that, you're not going to solve the world's problems. So we have a lot of problems, and we're not solving those problems. We're just being right.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, if you go back to transformational development, unfortunately, we have a lot of very powerful people, a lot of billionaires, and a lot of very powerful politicians they skipped the transformational development class, right? They're still what I call a petulant 5-year-old that has no authenticity at all, no integrity, no honesty, no servant leadership, fighting for power on both sides. And it's crazy when people have that much power and influence, and yet they are that undeveloped as a spiritual being. They're that needy that they need to lie and cheat and steal and bully and not be gracious and have empathy. And so the developed person is confident enough, both in who they are and their beliefs, to know something. Like a question I like to ask myself and I like to ask other people. Let's say we're in a debate, politics or anything, and so I like, okay, let's stop the action right now. We're debating politics. Let's stop the action. Let me ask you right now, Kody, do you believe you're right? And of course you would say, well, absolutely. That's what I've been saying, right? Of course I'm right. Are you kidding? Do you think I'm wrong? Well, you're so wrong. You're Wikipedia wrong. Are you kidding? So the next question, Kody, is, hey, Kody, have you ever in your life been wrong about something you were adamant you were right about? Have you ever discovered at a later point, I didn't know that. Wow, I learned that. I evolved through that. I have a different viewpoint about that. Have you ever been wrong? And the answer is always, well, yeah, of course. Well, how is it that in the heat of the moment,
you can't be wrong?
Yeah, we don't ever recognize the possibility that maybe we're fighting for something that 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to learn either through new science, new evidence, new personal experiences, whatever, wasn't true. So what's missing is humility and empathy and curiosity. You know, I wrote a blog about this. I haven't released it yet. I'm not working on the courage to release it because it'll be a firestorm. But you take all the voting things that are going on, right? You know, what about abortion and what about taxes and what about gay rights and what all the things that everybody fights about? I wonder how a politician would vote if, let's say, they were, not supportive of gay rights, which I can understand. I came from a culture not supportive. Like, I don't think I knew a gay person until I graduated from high school. And yet there had to be quite a few of them in high school. So I wasn't raised with an empathy or an awareness, right? So I might be somebody that would have voted not to protect those rights. But what if you're a politician and it's time for you to vote, but you have a gay child?
Yeah.
Does that influence how you vote? What if it's your 12-year-old daughter that's raped by an uncle? Do you vote different? I'm not saying you do. I'm saying empathy is missing. Curiosity is missing. Trying to understand life from other people's point of view until we have the self-esteem, until we feel good enough about ourselves to have the courage to wade in and understand the world from other points of view. Actually just understand, like, what happened in your life that you came to see the world that way. Yeah. Right? I was raised as a hunter. Yeah. I always had a gun in my car. Now, it wasn't an AR-15, right? Well, so we're missing that. And I think that's a noble ambition. And Promptings as an organization is worthy of carrying that torch, Kody, because you can do great work on bringing people together and just finding common ground. And a first place common ground doesn't matter your politics. Everybody loves recognition. That's right. Everybody loves love. Everybody loves gratitude. right? Everybody loves to be touched.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your politics. Start there. You start to bring people together.
Don't you find in all of your travels and the people, because you've helped so many people in the world, we have kind of similar experiences that way. Don't you find the true blessing? I just want to get your thoughts on this. I have found in my life the true blessing in my life comes from diversity. Like every experience I have, the more diverse it is, the better life experience I seem to have. You travel, you meet people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, different whatever. And part of the cool part is when they embrace you. People of a different culture, whatever, they embrace and invite you in and make you feel like you're accepted in that. To me, is one of the greatest blessings of life. So to me, the true blessing is diversity. It is differences and people coming together.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that.
You don't. Like, one of the ways I like to express it is if you agree with me, then everything I have to say is consistent with what you already believe and what you already know. So how much of a contribution am I to you? What kind of a breakthrough would you have listening to me if you already agree with me?
Yeah.
None. I'm not of much value to you. If you vehemently oppose every word that comes out of my mouth, there's a possibility for a breakthrough there,
Yeah.
right? You might learn something because I'm talking about stuff that you're not allowing into your life because you don't agree with it. So the adventurer, the world traveler, the person that goes and experiences other cultures and religions and people and values, they come back so wealthy with not necessarily agreeing. It's not about you go, spend time in India and you come back a Buddhist or whatever. No, it's maybe you come back with respect.
Yeah, for sure.
And it has nothing to do with agreement. But what if we just had mutual respect and curiosity? And that makes you and I, Kody, so much richer, so much more interesting, so much more user-friendly in the world, and allows us to be a contribution.
Well, and you enjoy life more. You wake up with joy in your heart, and that, I think that's the key, what everybody's looking for. So listen, we're listening to the one and only Richard Bliss Brooke. This guy, we could go on for hours and talk to him. Richard, where can people go and see your stuff, websites, stuff like that? I'd love to have our audience be exposed to your work and things. You got some great books and different stuff like that. Share that with us.
Easiest place to find me is richardbrooke.com or Richard Bliss Brooke on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, places like that.
You want to go check him out. I know there's links that he has of speeches he's given, books that he's written, different things. I could talk about your books forever. That mock Thor with your hair on fire. Always have these unique, highly unique and creative names to your books, but they're so dynamic and have blessed my life so much. So I encourage everybody to learn more about Richard Bliss Brooke. You can go to richardbrooke.com and learn more about him if you're in business or need help for consulting or anything like that, especially if you're in direct sales or personal development, or you need transformational coaching or anything like this. The guy's the best of the best. Don't know if he has any time for anybody, but he's the best of the best. So look into him, and appreciate all that you do, Richard. Any final thoughts, words for our group before we sign off?
Well, I just, I've told you, Kody, and I've told Jordan for years, I see what you're doing as such a pure, high integrity, generous offering. And, so many other products are, okay, yeah, it's this and it's this, and you exchange money for the product. And Maybe somebody likes it and that's great. But your product changes lives. Your product is spiritual in nature and it's fundamental in nature. And whether it's a prompting seminar or your new book promptings or send out cards, it's just a feel good enterprise, and it deserves to be huge. You know, Amazon is huge and Facebook is huge, but they don't contribute to society what you guys can contribute and do contribute. And so my vision for you is 100x. And those of you that are involved in promptings, just know that you are very fortunate and very special to be led by a man that is following his promptings and is a servant leader of highest integrity and great skills. And you just don't find that very often in business, where the owner and the leader of the company is really in it for you to achieve the kind of success that you want and have the kind of impact with other people that you want. You're a pure and beautiful enterprise, and I envision for you great continued success.
Well, Richard, thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words. Y'all feel the energy of that words. That's what promptings are all about. Richard is himself a servant leader, and he just, it just kind of rolls out of you, that recognition, appreciation towards me. And I really appreciate it. Appreciate all that you do. So listen, make sure you go check out Richard Brooke, and let's go change the world, everybody. Let's bring this human race back together again, and let's go accomplish the goals and dreams and desires that each of us have. We need you. We need you. All of us need who you are, the true you as a person. There's genius in you that only you have, and we need it. So make it happen. God bless everybody. Take care now.
Thank you, Kody.